Welcome to another edition of the Go Noles podcast. I am your host, Gregory McCoy. This podcast is by a fan for fans. I am not a journalist. I am not a reporter. I am not an insider. I do not work for a website. The majority of my content comes from me, in my opinion. Other information comes from the internet. I've been thinking about Jordan Travis, the quarterback, lately, and where this program would be without him. We wouldn't be that good. I don't think we would we would definitely be one of the worst programs in the country if we're not already there. But Jordan Travis needs to take the next step. I mean a quantum leap, not just a step, a quantum leap. He needs to have a Kenny Pickett type season in terms of progression, not necessarily the statistics, but definitely the progression in terms of being a quarterback. I think that would go a long way to helping Florida State have a fairly decent season. I've been saying it for a long time. Offensive line and defensive line are probably, to me, the most important foundational pieces of a football team. And then I would say quarterback. So I can't really put emphasis on it enough that we need a big year from him. And I would like to see less scrambling and just more playmaking with his arm, because he has a big arm, but sometimes he gets happy feet in the pocket and it affects his accuracy. When he just uses his fundamentals. He's a pretty good, quarterback throwing the football. But everything works together. Offensive line got to pass protect. Receivers got to get open. Quarterback has to make good throws. And, I think we can do it. I think he can do it. We just gonna have to see what happens. I really think in the Duquesne game, week 0, you can just run your basic stuff. You should be able to run your basic stuff against Duquesne and dominate. Now, if you can't run your basic stuff against Duquesne, a school I never heard of in my life, and not dominate the game, we got a problem. Because you don't want to show LSU nothing. I think it's Duquesne, LSU, Louisville, Wake Forest. That's the opening slate. You would love to come out of that 2-2, or 3-1. But 1-3 is not acceptable. We whatever you did to get this team out of the 0-win column last season, wherever you went, whatever buttons you had to push, you need to be pushing those buttons right now, Mike Norvell, to get this team ready to go and lock in from week 0 to the Florida game. Whatever buttons you got to push, whatever you got to do to motivate these guys, we need it. And we got to find the right pieces on the offensive line, the right combination of players. I got to see what this Bless Harris dude can do, man. I don't even remember seeing him in the scrimmage, but like I said, I don't put a lot of stock in the spring game. It's just a glorified scrimmage. You're not really seeing an actual game. It's just a glorified practice, really. And, if he's going to be the guy on the left, is it left or right side? Okay, fine. But I really want to see what Lloyd Willis can do. And I really want to see what Rod Orr can do. Because I'm not really sold on, what's his name? I can't think of his name. The left tackle with the goggles. I forget names, man. Y'all know that. But I'm not really sold on him. Because, I mean, you hear other people talking about, oh, well, he's a great, or not great, but he's a good tackle. I don't know, man. I don't feel like he's that good. Not how he routinely gets beat. So, and I know I talk about the offensive line all the time, but that's been, for the last 5-6 years, that's been our, kryptonite, is the offensive line. The offensive line was never that great to begin with. I think Dalvin Cook masked a lot of problems that we had on the offensive line. So we didn't have to go out and get top level guys. We just had to basically go get bodies. And then we paying for it now. So, we got a great offensive line coach in Atkins, and he's getting guys, if you're Florida State, unless a big time Power 5 school comes calling, you pay that guy whatever he wants. You don't pay him more than the head coach. But, just off recruiting alone, you try to keep him. Because he's definitely making headway on that offensive line. It's just a matter of time before you start seeing, positive results. And we can only hope that we see those positive results this season. I don't know what combination of players on the offensive line that they're gonna go with, but that's probably the most critical decision for this team this season. And that's gonna determine a lot. It's gonna determine how this season goes. It's gonna determine the passing game, the run game, everything. I've said it before. I think the offensive line in football really, is the heartbeat of your team, because they can basically control everything that happens on your team. They control how long the defense is out there, right? They control kickoff. They control punt. They control, virtually every facet of the game. If your offensive line is dominating, you're eating up clock. Your defense is on the field less. Okay? If they're dominating, they're scoring points. Okay? You don't have to punt. Okay? If your offensive lineman is dominating, you're usually not, you don't have to do kickoff return or punt return, any of that stuff. So it's just, to me, I don't think in football there's a more important position group than the offensive line. And just from Florida State for the last 5-6 years, we're seeing it. We're suffering for it. And, I just hope that we can get that position group right. I think it will go a long way to determining how successful we are this season. I just recently saw that the recruiting coordinator position opened up for Florida State, and Brewster, a guy who's with Jimbo, during his successful run, he is available. I would bring him back. I think he was a tremendous closer. He always recruited well in Florida. Why not bring him back? that's a win-win for Florida State. He got into a little battle with Ramsey a few years ago about when he was at Texas A&M. He was posting on social media about the guys that he had put in help, recruit, and they got to the league. And, Jalen Ramsey said, I never went to Texas A&M. I went to Florida State. So, that's the only, somewhat negative thing I can really think about the guy. But other than that, I think he was a pretty good position coach, tight ends coach, and recruiting coordinator. I mean, obviously you're going to hire him for the recruiting coordinator stuff. It may be a position down the line, but I think that would be a tremendous, pickup for Florida State. This is the last summer that we have to go without a college football video game. And I just think this incarnation of the game, I just hope they're using different animations. I hope it's not a Madden copycat. When NCAA 14 came out, I just thought it was a trash game. I really thought it was a trash game. I probably played like a few seconds of it. I was like, man, this thing is booty. And then years went by, we didn't have a game, and you just say, okay, this was a pretty good game. And I don't know if it was because we were not getting a new game or if it was just a really good game. But, it's coming out on the next gen console, so it's probably going to look very good, I hope. I mean, if history tells us anything, when EA brings a new game to a new console, that first year is pretty trash. So, they've had a couple years we're basically still a year out, but they would have had a couple of years to really put a solid game together. And I just hope that they are really listening to the fans, listening to the gamers, and just, try to put a very good game out there. The dark side of name, image, likeness. You should have saw this coming. You knew that the SEC, with the big money that they get, they were going to go around rating other programs. You should have saw this coming. So you got the new regulations out there. I haven't actually seen them yet, but I would imagine that basically one of the first rules is that you can't recruit guys off another team's roster. And basically it's the boosters doing that. But see, I don't have a problem with that. If I feel like if the player wants to leave for a payday, let him go. Let him do that. Because if he can just get a little bit of money to help himself or to help his family, I like that idea. That's the American way. If you got a job and another job comes calling and they want to pay you more money, guess what? You have the freedom and the right to leave. If somebody offers a head coach a better paying job, he has the choice to leave. The players can't say, okay, such and such was tampering with our head coach. And it's always this double standard. But like I said, if these players, the majority of these players that's getting the money are black. In my heart of hearts, I think if it was, white guys getting this payday, you wouldn't be hearing about it. They would just say that's capitalism. And I'm not trying to throw out the whole racial thing, but, it's facts. this big money is getting thrown around, and the majority of these guys are black. And then, you got to get all these rules and stipulations in place. But like I told you the other week, when Arch Manning gets to college, he will probably sign the largest NIL deal in history. And I promise you, it won't be this big hoopla about it. And deservingly so. I hope the young man gets all the money that he deserves in the universe. I don't, as a fan, I want these guys to get paid. But I just want it to be fair and balanced. And if one guy's going to get scrutinized for leaving whatever school and going to another school, or getting a big money deal and he gets criticized, then all players should get it. I don't think anybody should be void of criticism. And I really just hate the media, bro. I really do. I understand they got a job to do, but just attacking a guy because he is trying to take care of himself, take care of his health, and you want to put a sport above that, I don't get it. Like the Kyrie Irving situation. He didn't get vaccinated. He sat out games. Well, he felt like his health was more important than basketball. So I just don't get why these pundits go on TV and say, oh, he's selfish and I wouldn't give him this and I wouldn't give him that. You costing that man money. You costing that man money to take care of his family and take care of his kids. And people don't think about that. And if he doesn't re-sign with Nike, I think it's going to be a number of shoe companies lining up to sign Kyrie Irving. Extremely. And if I was him, I wouldn't go back to Brooklyn. I know he from New Jersey, and I know the New Jersey Nets, now the Brooklyn Nets, is like his home team. I wouldn't go back. I would go bump it. I would go play with LeBron again. You ain't done nothing since LeBron. Go back and play with LeBron, man. And like I said, I know this is the Go Noles podcast, but, I feel like NIL and his situation comes together. I mean, Norvell was on the ACC network the other day talking about tampering. Teams tampering with his players. I mean, we got some okay guys, but, Florida State has to basically fundraise for their NIL stuff. We don't have, billionaires waiting in the wings just to go get guys like some of these SEC programs. I wish we did. I wish I was a billionaire. I would be that guy. I most certainly would. So, the media, it's never going to change. I can sit here and wish until, the end of the world, but the media is not going to change. They're going to, if anything, it's going to get worse. It's never going to get better. So, we just have to hope that the players can be smarter with some of the decisions that they make. But, I think when it comes to health, you have to make the best decision that's for you and your family. You can't worry about what the media is saying. Everything with this upcoming season, to me, hinges on offensive line play. I think we've upgraded at wide receiver. We got pretty good receivers now, in my opinion. I think we got a nice stable of running backs. And tight end is kind of so-so. With the exception of Cam McDonald. But I really feel like we can, if we can get something done on the offensive line, if we can figure out what we're doing there, I think we're going to be okay. I don't really worry about the defense too much. I think defensively, we're going to be all right. By no stretch of the imagination do I think we're going to be Georgia of last season. But I think we're going to be very competitive on defense. I think we've upgraded at linebacker. We went and got some guys on the defensive line. Losing Travis Hunter was a tremendous blow, but I think with, getting, a couple of 4 stars, I think we're going to be all right there. So I look for Florida State to be one of the top defenses in the ACC at minimum. No worse than 5th in the ACC. No worse. And offensively is where the questions lie. Special teams is also a work in progress. So we're going to see what happens. As usual, thank you for listening. I do appreciate your support. This podcast is available on YouTube. It's available on all podcast platforms. As always, go Noles.